Hey guys, welcome back to Well and Worthy Life podcast. I'm so excited you're back here today with me, and I've got some updates for you. So, first update, I am going back to podcasting, having a podcast release every week. We'll see if I can keep up with this, but I really feel like consistency is key. And I talk about this in everything that I do, that we have to be consistent, and it's easier to be consistent week to week. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have some shorter solo episodes so that I can be more consistent. So it's not overwhelming for me, because we don't want anything to be overwhelming for any of us. That's when we don't get things done. Again, I talk about this in Revive Now. And so I'm trying to practice what I preach when it comes to podcasting, and it can be a lot. So anyway, so I'm really excited to tell you about that. So today is going to be a solo episode, and it's going to be pretty short. And then also I want to tell you what's coming up this week. So if you're listening to this when this is released on Tuesday, November the 7th, on November the 9th, I have a free workshop coming up, Motivation Uprise. Refocus and revive your motivation to avoid those extra holiday pounds. You know, one of the questions I get asked all the time is about, how do you stay motivated? How do you stay on track? How do you, whether it be the holidays or vacation or something, comes up in your life, how do you keep going? And so I'm going to share that in a free workshop on Thursday. Now, it's going to be Thursday at 10 a.m., Thursday, November the 9th. So if you cannot be there, don't worry about it. If you can't be there live, I love it when you come live, but if you can't be there live, then go ahead and still register, because we'll send you the recording. Okay. So I don't want you to miss out on that, especially with the upcoming holidays. It can be a battle sometimes, right? With all the parties and all that stuff. So let's get into today's podcast. So today's podcast, I really thought about sharing with you 5 things that I would tell my younger self. Now, there's probably so many more things that I would tell my younger self, but these were 5 things that really came to mind right away. And I feel very passionate about this, because I always say this: if I had known then what I know now, I would have done things so differently. And hindsight's always 2020, right? So we can always look back. But I think that we should learn from our past, and we should learn from others that have been before us. That's what I really try to learn from people that have gone before me and done things. So that is one of my missions, is to help you, that especially if you're a lot younger than me, like this podcast especially, that I want to be like your big sister. Maybe your mother. I could be your mother probably too, but your big sister that just kind of tells you a few things that, hey, pay attention to this. Okay. So the first thing, and I've tried to order these in a way that's most important to least, but honestly, I don't know what is the most important. But right now, the most important to me, I would tell you to enjoy the moment. They fly by. Okay. They soar by, and I was always this person who I couldn't wait to get to the next stage of life. Like when I was in college, I couldn't wait to graduate. I actually graduated in 3 years because I was in such a hurry. I don't know why I was set in such a hurry, but I was. I was always that person. I couldn't wait to get to the next stage of life. So then it was after college, I couldn't wait to get married. I couldn't wait to have children. Then I was like growing them up before they were even grown up. For some reason, I couldn't just enjoy the moment. Now at 58, I'm finally enjoying every single moment. And yeah, there's some bad times and there's good times, but we're going to get to that. But really understanding that time flies, And you may be in a stage of life that you're excited about your next stage of life or whatever, but really enjoy where you are in that moment because it does fly by. Okay. So that's probably my number one. And then the other thing I'm going to tell you that I would tell my younger self, and this is for everybody out there, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Like, there are going to be some bad times, but they will pass. You can survive. You are resilient and you will survive. You know, those bad times go away just like the good times. You know how you wait on, like, let's think about something when we were younger. Couldn't wait till it was Christmas and it was going to be so much fun. And then Christmas was here and it was gone. Or you couldn't wait for a vacation and then it's here and it's gone. So the same thing happens with bad things. One of the first really, really, really bad things I can remember happening to me was when my father got sick with cancer. At the time, it was about this time of the year, actually. Gosh, when I think about it, it just blows me away. It was 29 years ago. And he was 58 years old, the same age I am. And he was diagnosed with esophageal cancer. And I was 20, I had to be 28 around then. So I was 28, he was 58, and he was diagnosed with esophageal cancer. Now, that's was one of my biggest fears, is to lose one of my parents. And it scared me, and it should have scared me. He was diagnosed in November and he passed away at the end of April. It was very quick and it was horrible. At the same time, I had tons going on in my life. My oldest son was diagnosed with, he had bacterial meningitis, was in the hospital. He then, while he was in the hospital, it's crazy. It's a long story. I won't get into it, but they found that one of his kidneys was non-functioning. He had to have a kidney taken out. I was pregnant with my youngest son, Cole. We moved during that time. It was just like, are you kidding me? It was really a tough time. And like I said, then my father passed away, something I thought I could not handle. I adored my father. My father adored me. We were very, very close. And it was horrible. But life goes on. And you do realize how resilient you are, and you can go on. And, you know, I kind of, and this may sound awful, but I kind of measure things like when something bad happens, I'm like, is anybody dying? I have lost my mother too. I lost her about, I think it's been about 8 years ago now that she passed away. You know, I mean, like, I've had some tough times. I went through a very ugly, nasty divorce when I was around, I think I was 41, 42. It took almost 2 years. So those were some really bad times. And I survived. And, you know, it may have been like, especially like my divorce, it took a long time, but I got past it. And there were good times in between all of those bad times. So I want you to know it's going to be okay. I wish somebody had told me that when I was in the midst of it, because it didn't feel like it was going to be okay. I wasn't sure if it was going to be okay, but it is going to be okay. You will survive. You'll be stronger for it. And honestly, those bad times are what make you who you are. I mean, I really feel like that's what has made me who I am, those bad times, and how I have survived those times and come out stronger and a better person for those times. So I want to tell you, it's going to be okay. Now, the other things are not as deep, but I think it's very, very important. One thing is, and I talk about this in Revive Now membership a lot, but we need to be lifting heavy weights. And in my 20s, I did do personal training. And so I was lifting weights in my 20s and fairly heavy weights, and I was gaining muscle. But guess what? I didn't like the way I looked because I felt like I was getting too muscular looking. And maybe it wasn't just me. I was married to a very much a man who had strong opinions, and he did not like the way I was looking either. And so really at the end of my 20s, beginning of my 30s, I stopped lifting the weights and I became a runner. And I will tell you, those were some of the best days of my life running with my girlfriends because we solved all the world's problems, right? But I really wasn't getting any, especially my upper body strength. I was lifting my children, so that helped, but I wasn't creating new muscle. And now we know in our 30s, in our 20s and 30s, really is when we can really build that muscle, because towards our mid to late 30s, we start losing that muscle and we get, more fat, even if we're that skinny fat. Okay. So then it was funny because then in my 40s, I found Pure Barre, which I still love Pure Barre. Don't get me wrong. I think it's amazing. And it has some heavier weights in there now. And it has the resistance aspect of it. But I'm not sure if we're lifting heavy enough there. So now in my 50s, like I said, I know how important lifting heavy is. It is something that I am continuously working on, trying to find what is the best fit for me to lift heavy. I'm a class person. I love classes. So it's trying to find what's going to work best for me. But I know that I need to be lifting heavy. So I'm really trying to change things up and not do things the way I did it before, and really focus on lifting heavy things, because that's the way, that muscle is the way we have longevity. Think about it. I mean, as we get older, if we start losing our muscle in our 30s and we're not building more muscle, then, we become frailer and frailer. I'm not saying that right, but anyway, you understand what I'm saying, like that our bodies are breaking down. In fact, Dr. Gabrielle Lyon talks about this very strongly in her book, Forever Strong, talking about muscle-centric medicine, that we are over fat and under muscled. And I really do believe that's true. I've noticed in my 50s, all of a sudden, I started getting that belly fat, right? And things that were getting flabbier. And it was because I was losing the muscle and not building that muscle back. And it's a lot harder in your 50s. So if you're young, in your 20s and 30s and 40s, and you're listening to this, I want to tell you, go out, get some heavy weights and lift some heavy weights. Figure out what's going to work for you. So lift heavy. I'm just going to tell you, it will make a difference, and it's never too late to start. If you haven't started, just start. Find a personal trainer, because you want to do it safely. And I think that's really important, to do it safely. And you have to protect those joints and everything else, but that muscle is so important. Okay. Okay. So I've talked about enjoy the moment. Enjoy the moment. It's going to be okay. You're resilient. Work out with weights. Lift heavy. Become more intentional with what you're eating. Again, we didn't talk about this a lot, not when I was in my 20s and 30s. And to be honest with you, I was brought up in the age where all of a sudden there was all this processed foods, right? Hamburger Helper, Twinkies, all those things. And so we didn't even know the implications of all of this. And so we thought quicker is better, right? Grab and go food. But here's the thing. We know that a lot of that food, processed food, is inflammatory food. And inflammatory food just makes us look not our best. It makes us feel not our best. I mean, all the things. Just think about it. When you have an inflamed body parts, like you hit it and you have this swelling, this inflammation, it's because your body's trying to heal itself. And that's the only thing it can do. And we don't want to get our body inflamed. So I would tell myself, and I was really bad. And even I fed my children bad too. I'm a confessions here, right? I didn't know. And so when you know better, you do better, right? So what I will tell you is we have to become more intentional with our food and think about food as medicine and as this nourishment that we're putting in our body so that our body can perform well, can feel well. And so what is it? And look, here's the other thing. Sometimes there are healthy foods that you're eating a lot of, or you just eat, but it doesn't make you feel good. So, and I want to get to that in a minute, but so really paying attention, and being intentional. Look, you don't have to always track. I know a lot of people are talking about tracking macros. And yes, that may be a good place to start if that's works for you. Personally, I hate tracking. It, I don't know, it just really doesn't align with who I am. And it makes me more focused on what I can't have than what I can have. So I am just more intentional and really focusing on getting that protein so that I can have that muscle. So in my case, I'm building all of my meals. Every meal I have, I'm building it around the protein because I know that protein is so important for my muscle. And so if I'm going to lift heavy, like I said, then I want to feed my muscles with the protein. And then I'm really focusing on whole foods, real foods, that come from the ground or come from an animal. That's where I really want to focus so that I'm getting all the nutrients my body needs. And really, to be honest with you, I try not to even eat out very much. When I was younger and married to my first husband, we ate out so much. And it's hard because the portions are huge when you eat out. We used to order everything. We would leave some on the table, but we would order appetizers and meals for everybody. And it was almost gluttonous when I think back to that. But they had inflammatory oils in there. Just all the things. They had extra sugar and just everything. So when you eat out, it's a lot harder to control your portions and to control what you are consuming. It's not that I don't ever eat out now. I do eat out, but I really try to think about those things. I know I feel so much better when I know exactly what's going into my body. Which brings me to number 5. Okay. Listen to your body. Like I said, there may be some healthy things that just don't agree with you. Well, I don't care who tells you to eat them. If it doesn't agree with you, it doesn't agree with you. The biggest thing is we are all different. So we all need different things. And that's when it comes to eating, when it comes to moving our body, when it comes to stress management, hormone health, mindset, we are all different. And what works for us may not work for somebody else. So remember to listen to your body, listen to your mind, because that's the other thing. We have this intuition. We know somebody could tell us something and we just do it because that's what we think we should be doing. That's what they've told us to do. And look, who knows what you should do? Only you know what is going to work for you. Only you know what your goals are. Only you know how you feel. So really listening to yourself, listening to your body. Okay. So I hope this helps you. And even if you're my age or older and you're listening to this, I'm sure from one of these things you can pick out. And I'm sure you have a lot of things that you're like, I could tell my younger self this, and I could tell my younger self that. And like I said from the very beginning, hindsight's always 2020, but let's try to learn from ourselves, from our friends, from our mentors, what is going to work for us long term. Okay, I want to go over the 5 things one more time just to kind of refresh your memory. But number 1, enjoy every moment. They fly by. Number 2, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. You are resilient. Number 3, lift heavy. Number 4, become more intentional with what you're eating. Less processed foods, more whole foods. Okay. Number 5, listen to your body. You know what is best for you, right? Nobody else is living your life. So listen to yourself and know what's right for you. But don't let that be an excuse not to do something that makes you better. Don't let something hold you back. You are an achiever. You are an overcomer, and you can do anything. You just have to use your mindset, which is the number one thing I think is so important. Using your mindset. We talk about that. That's the first thing we dive into in Revive Now, because I just think that that's so important. If you can get that mindset right, then you can get everything right. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Please let me know about any other topics or guests or anything else you'd like to see on this podcast. Look, this podcast is for you. I have no ads on here because I want you to know that this truly is for you. Okay, I hope you have a wonderful day and keep in touch. Always know you can email me, Deanna at wellandworthylife.com. And if you want to join us in Revive Now, just click on the link in the show notes. I'd love to have you. It's open anytime for you.